Hi there. I am Sassy Mint Grace. This is January 21st, 2023, and I am about to share with you a novel that I wrote 10 years ago but is yet unpublished. It's called Hope's Kiss, but it's not a romance. It begins with a quote from Harvey Milk: Hope is never silent. Prologue of Hope's Kiss. 4,021 suicides reported in Atlantic Canada. The majority of these were executed en masse at local churches, although there were also 896 individual acts confirmed at this time. These were simultaneously carried out on October 31st. Sources indicate that the groups and individuals involved were part of an online site promoting the belief that the world economy is on the verge of collapse and therefore all personal security and social infrastructure will soon deteriorate or dissolve, rather than suffer the potential fascist chaos of what some proclaim is the imminent end of the world. Those involved chose suicide via lethal injection. Chapter 1. Gregorian chants played softly in the background of the Foundation Face Smoke Easy that night. Spotlights intersected paths and illuminated opposite ends of the 20-foot ceiling, highlighting the morning sky on one end and the midnight on the other. Fragrances of jasmine tea and marijuana smoke rivaled for attention. Shelves loaded with books, various aquariums and terrariums lit with soft lights covered the two longer walls, while at the back wall there was a door leading into the sanctuary. This was a place often adorned with flickering candlelight and live harp music to the delight of the senses of those gathered there. Another door led into a small kitchen stocked with jars of loose teas, all manner of fresh herbs, sprouts, spices, and a large stock of organic ingredients for vegan sandwiches and soups. One small cooler preserved the sweets that were ordered in from a specialty bakery close by. The front wall of the cafe was enclosed with a storefront window and the entrance off the street. The club was fitted with bamboo framed heavy glass top tables lit with the softness of hurricane candles and surrounded by wicker chairs. For those who wanted more comfort, there were large, golden cushioned wicker occasional chairs in nooks and crannies here and there. Giant potted ferns, avocado, and vines enlivened the corners with vibrant greens. A short man with a dime sized spider tattoo on his right temple was clothed in a dark blue A-line dress and thick wedgie sandals. He walked up to the front of the large room and stood before the small platform inside the storefront window. He cleared his throat several times, and shortly the din quieted and the background of chants silenced. One young woman with turquoise hair quietly left for the ladies' room, while another older woman gathered up a set of rune stones and replaced them into the small cloth bag and poured herself more tea from the pot on her table. A 5 foot nothing woman struggled up onto the stage and seemed to momentarily lose her balance. Just as she reached for the mic, she swayed, barely managing to maintain a foothold without the quick grab for a chair behind her. She rubbed her eye with her left hand and then scratched her chin. The man with the tattoo coughed and cleared his throat once more, and then spoke into the portable mic he held. Good evening, one and all. This night it brings me great pleasure to introduce you to an amazing woman. She's a writer, speaker, advocate, inventor, but most of all, a leader of our time. Let's give it up for MJ Hope. Patrons of the quiet room broke into clapping and whistling, continuing until MJ motioned for the applause to stop. She stood and stretched her body at full height, opened her eyes, opened her mouth with a loud yawn. Several of the audience followed with their own yawns. Once more, she yawned, pronounced, Some of the audience shuffled their feet and looked askance at their companions. Finally, she said, "Thank you, Aaron, for your kind words." Then cued the sound person to turn a switch. Soft improvisational jazz music filled in the quiet. MJ reached for the small booklet on the chair beside her and opened it. After two burps and a hiccup, she started reading. The Cannabis Manifesto, page 1. Once more, the audience burst into loud applause, and she waited for them to quiet before she continued. Table of contents. Why I decided to write this piece, why pot was made illegal to begin with, why the need to control weed is a state induced illusion, what they say they are protecting us from, what are holes in the soul and how can one get rid of them, what good is cannabis, physically, mentally, spiritually, economically, and creatively. Behind MJ, the window suddenly blazed with red and blue flashing lights. She continued undistracted until the doors from the street opened behind her and the room flooded with uniformed men and women. As several of the customers deep sixed their pot, the man with the spider tattoo approached the leader of this party of 15 officers dressed in suits and various uniforms, looking up at the 6 foot something man who was pulling a small pad from his suit jacket. Aaron demanded, "What is the problem? This is a licensed smokeasy. All of my paperwork is in order if you'd like to see it." The officer shook his head and referred to the pad in his hand. He announced, "We're looking for MJ Hope. Is she here?" The woman on the platform behind him tapped the officer on the shoulder and smiled sweetly at the patrons. He turned around and found himself face to face with MJ. She took one step back and curtsied and pronounced, "Here I am. How can I help you?" And then, in what seemed was severe overkill, several of the other officers swarmed the stage and took a hold of the woman. She looked confused, and then she asked in distress, "Excuse me, what the hell?" The lead policeman replied, "You are under arrest." Now she was really alarmed, and she struggled as the cuffs were attached to her wrist, and her voice dropped to ask, "On what charge?" The entire cafe was in an uproar now. Aaron shouted above the din, "On what charge?" The commanding officer looked back over his shoulder just as the door closed behind them and announced, "Terrorism." The room went silent. Several gasped. There was a flurry of motion as phones were pulled from briefcases and purses and pockets. End of chapter 1 of Hope's Kiss.